Hi, beautiful friends. It's Laurel here with Illuminating Souls. And, you know, so, so this is not a conversation I want to have with you. And I don't even have to, that I want to choose even to have a conversation with you about this again. But I'm really guided to. I've been guided all week long and I recorded it once and then I didn't post it. So here I am again for the coronavirus conversation for July 2021. Take a breath with me. like, okay, we're here. And the reason I'm making this broadcast for you is because I heard from so many of you that when I was doing these recordings last year, especially as we were getting started with our whole adventure with COVID, that these were helpful for you. And so I'm guided to make one now, sort of an assessment of where we are now, and to the best of my ability to share with you my sense of what's happening. And I'm not a medical professional. I don't have any inside information. This is not my big cosmic intuitive hit from the angels. This is just me, Laurel, trying to metabolize all the information and use a little bit of my intuitive guidance in service to what's happening. So if this isn't your thing, I will not be offended if you don't watch, if you want to roll your eyes, if you don't think COVID is a thing, it's totally okay. You have all the same information I have access to. So the best any of us can do is to look at the data and look at our lives and kind of choose in. So with that said, here's my sense of what's happening and why I am alarmed. So as you may have heard, there is now the Delta variant that is increasing in terms of the kinds of COVID that's making the rounds. Higher percentages are turning out to be this Delta variant. And the thing that's different about this Delta variant that so far that we know is that it's much more infectious. With the older form of COVID, they were saying that you had to sort of, let's say you were in a room with somebody for 15 minutes before there was enough viral load where you might get infected. This particular variant is different. There are studies coming out of Sydney that says even just a few seconds of being in proximity to the virus, you can catch it. They had somebody who was infected and didn't know it, and they went into a mall in Sydney, and people who just casually passed by them in the mall got infected. The other thing that's different about this variant is that the vaccines are not as effective where this variant is concerned. The studies coming out of Israel say that the Pfizer vaccine, for example, and probably the numbers for Moderna are similar, will give you a 64% protection rate against COVID. So I guess that must mean that if I'm doing my math right, 35% of people may still get breakthrough COVID. But it also protects, the vaccines still protect you up to 95% from getting serious COVID. So in all likelihood, you won't wind up in the hospital and God forbid you won't die, right? Not that God forbid you wouldn't die. It's that you understand what I mean, right? Like, no, I don't want anybody to die, is basically what I'm saying. God forbid anybody dies from this. Sorry. Okay, so here's the thing though. So even if with the vaccine you still may get COVID, but the symptoms may be mild, if that was the end of the story, I would say no big deal. But the unknown here is how many of the people who get COVID, even if it's mild, will wind up with long COVID. Because my friends, long COVID is a thing. I know people who have it and have had it for over a year now. Not everybody gets it, but I'm sure you know people, like I know people who suffer from chronic illnesses like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, Lyme disease, and they're very difficult conditions to live with. And it looks like long COVID is very similar to that. So from my perspective, we want to avoid getting COVID at all costs because, now I'm not so worried that I might die, but holy jamolies, I don't want to live the next, 30 years of my life with a chronic illness because of this virus. And listen, you may be going, I'm not worried about that. That's not a thing. And that's okay. I'm not coming to you to convince you of anything. I don't know whether or not you should get vaccinated. I really don't. It concerns me that the species en masse may all be getting vaccinated with this new kind of vaccine. It makes me kind of nervous. I'm beyond childbearing years. I've lived, the first 2/3 of my life and have the next third to go. And so with my underlying health conditions and my life and stuff, the vaccine makes sense for me. It may not make sense for you. I mean, if I had children under the age of 12, I would really have to look long and hard at the data to choose into vaccinations. I don't know. So this isn't me trying to convince you of what to do. I'm more just trying to give you information so that you can do your own research and then choose into what makes most sense for you and your family. So here in the US, we're very blessed that we have access to the vaccinations. So good news if you're in the US, if you want a vaccine, you can get one. However, that is not the case around the world. And I know many of you don't live in the US. So you may not even have access to the vaccine. If you want the vaccine, I hope you can get it. And in the meanwhile, I personally am now going to be using more caution. After I've been vaccinated, the vaccines as of May seem to be 95% effective. And so I was feeling much more comfortable going out into the world, and I switched from wearing an N95 mask to the little blue paper masks. And I was still using the mask when I would go into a store, and I felt more comfortable visiting with people. I would visit indoors with people who had been vaccinated, and I would visit outdoors with people who hadn't been vaccinated. And I was pretty confident in my choice to do that. And now I'm not so sure. We just had the 4th of July here in the US. People are traveling again. Planes are sold out, huge crowds of people. I think we're 3 weeks to 4 weeks away from seeing what that's going to mean for us. Is the Delta variant going to increase? Are people going to start getting sick again? We already know in places like Missouri that emergency rooms and hospitals are overloaded again. So take a breath with me. I need to breathe after that. So my game plan, I said to my husband, and I'm not happy about this. I feel like this winter, I'm going to be living a life very similar to the life I lived last year, which means I'm going to be socially isolating, masking up, going back to the N95 masks when I go out into stores and stuff like that, because I want to avoid getting COVID because I don't want long COVID. And I don't want to give COVID to anyone else because I live with this philosophy that, if it's within my power not to cause harm to anyone else, I don't want to. Just because I'm vaccinated and vaccinated people at this point can still transmit the virus to people who aren't vaccinated. That's what the study is showing from Israel and also in other places. So I'm not wanting to infect anybody. So it's complicated. Can you hear how confused? It's complicated, right? So here's why. So anyways, this is why I'm sharing all of this with you. It's complicated. And I highly encourage you to start following data, especially if, politics gets things very confused, I think in the UK and here in the US. Look at what's going on in Sydney. Look at what's going on in Israel. Look what's going on in other countries. And the thing is that no one really knows what's going to happen. If anyone tells you they know, they don't. We don't know how this virus is going to continue mutating, especially because large percentages of the population are not yet vaccinated. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So I think I'm going to be kind of zipping up my social life again pretty soon here. I'm thinking, wait, who do I need to see before all of this happens? Who do I need to go see? Because I feel like come August and September, we're going to know how 4th of July affected everything here, and it may get hairy again. So speaking of hairy, I'm going to get my hair cut tomorrow. These are not issues. These are not big problems. It's just what level of exposure am I comfortable with? Basically we all have to do a risk assessment on our lives and then choose. And we all live with some level of risk no matter what, right? So you're going to look at your life curriculum and choose and follow the data. And one last thing, because I'm sorry if this is going long. I think this energy, this wave that may be coming in the next few months is why so many of us are feeling off kilter. In my work, I've talked to a lot of other intuitive, empathic people, and we have all been feeling like we're in this place in between, this liminal state of transformation, a threshold of some kind. And it's felt very difficult to move forward. Like, what do I do? Where do I belong? What comes next? And a lot of us feel like we're living in this uncertainty. And I think this is some of that uncertainty. Like, I don't know. I can't make plans for September. I don't know where we're going to be. My goal is to, God willing, keep the people I love alive and healthy. If it is within my ability to contribute to their well-being, that is my hope. And so I make my choices based on that. So anyways, you do you look at all the right data, you figure out what you need to do for your family. But if you're feeling nervous, I want you to know you're not being a worrywart. Yeah, things are going to start happening again. So plug in and discern what do you need to do to take care of your family. I will say N95 masks are, at least here in the US, are available again. So if you don't have any, bring a few in, especially if you live where there's fire season. We're starting up fire season here again on the West Coast of the US. So I did find out you can get N95 masks at Lowe's and Home Depot still. Get the ones without the valve because then you can use them. Make sure your pantry is filled up just in case things start getting wacky again. And in the meanwhile, if the numbers are really low where you are, enjoy the world for a while, because I have a feeling things are going to start getting zipped up again. Just my hit. I hope I'm wrong. I would love, love, love to be wrong. I would love for somebody to come back to me in 3 months and go, Laurel, you are so off on this. It's your worry gene. There was no problem. You didn't need to stay home all this time. It's fine. Can I just tell you how happy I would be to be wrong? I'd be so freaking happy. I'm so ready to be wrong about this. I don't think I am though. So we'll see. And I love you, and have an awesome day, and find things you can enjoy about life right now, because the world is a beautiful place and we are so lucky to be alive and to be here. And I'm grateful to have this time with you. Bye.